mentioned before a film called Saturn V, which we have discussed before on this one, which actually puts forward the theory that the space shots never happened.
Yeah, that basically what happened was that, you know, the guys were in the spaceship, and then as soon as they got out of the range of the television cameras, they were brought down in the desert. And then they were forced to recreate this kind of moon landing in the middle of the desert, and it was all sort of relayed by television. Of course, in the movie, what happens is that while they're out there recreating this, you know, this thing, they suddenly realise that actually they'll never be able to be allowed to come back, because there's a possibility that they might tell their story. So in fact, what happens is that they're going to be killed on re-entry. So they kind of they revolt, and it's a great movie. I mean, I think it's a load of old bunk, but I can imagine why people thought it at the time. You kind of look at the television screen and you see there's a picture of some guy walking on the moon. You think, no, it's happening in the TV studio.
Well, they were desperate to succeed with this thing, you know, like to sort of, you know, the Americans wanted something, they wanted to succeed, they wanted to be first and everything, so like, well, don't bother getting there, let's just put them in the desert and everything. And there's all sorts of theories about it. It was like when I can't remember, Buzz Aldrin or Neil Armstrong hits the golf stroke on the moon, and people watch it and say there is no way under these conditions that the ball would go. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy.
But that's all kind of like the Oliver Stone thing about, you know, if you look at the Nixon's nose in some of these pictures, then you realise that he's actually a space alien. Actually, the strangest story from that whole period is, you know, who was the first man into space?
Yuri Gagarin.
Yeah, well, apparently not. Somewhere, somebody's got to make a film of this, because this sounds to me like the best film setup ever. The story is this, and I only found this out from reading that wretched Guardian notes and queries thing. Somebody wrote in a letter saying, I have heard that Yuri Gagarin wasn't the first man into space. What do you know about it? And the answer was that they said, well, apparently it is very widely believed that Gagarin was the 11th or 12th man into space. And the way that they're supposed to know this is that the Americans reportedly picked up signals from Russian astronauts who had been blasted out into space and who had, you know, quite clearly failed to get back. And they had the names of 4 of these people, and they had estimated that there was something like another 5. Now, I'm not giving you chapter and verse on this, but the fact is, if you want to go and investigate it, there is evidence that this stuff happened. Now, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I don't care. If it is true, what an incredible story. The 10 guys who didn't come back, whose names have been completely erased from history, who actually were the first people into space. I mean, the only thing you really know about that period is the Russians were desperate to get there first. Yeah. The Americans were desperate to get there first. Nobody wanted to have a screw up. Nobody wanted anything to go wrong. And the fact is, America was officially second both times, you know. I mean, basically, Sputnik was described by Stephen King as the scariest thing he remembers about his childhood. You know, one minute, the Americans are the best nation in the world, and the next thing, Sputnik's flying over their head. And, of course, Yuri Gagarin beat the Americans officially into space. So, I mean, listen, if there's some young filmmaker out there, find out about this stuff, about these alleged, and I stress alleged because it was only in the notes and queries, there are alleged 10 other people who got up there first but never came back. That's a film.
Well, it must be interesting. I mean, how do they get people to volunteer for these jobs? So, Yuri, the deal is this, right? You're the 12th, and none of the 11 have come back. But they got the dogs back, didn't they? Like Laika and all that. The first dog in space.
Did Laika come back?
But how would you tell? I mean, how intimate are you with these dogs? You know?
Now, I'm sorry, I may be completely wrong about this. I was under the impression that the dogs didn't come back. That they hadn't. The reason they sent up animals was they hadn't figured out re-entry.
And so they just did them in out there and let them go.
Yeah, I think so.
Shocking. Get the RSPCA on.
And then also Saturn V, the other bit of trivia is that O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, because, I mean, O.J. Simpson used to be an actor, of course, so, you know.
Okay. And anyway, they did do the moonshots, really, and they established a base up there, and the reason that they stopped doing the moonshots was so that space colony where Jim Morrison and Elvis live would not be disturbed.
That's right.
And that's the truth of the situation.